In 1959, Dr. Halliday, a Vancouver physician, came up with the idea that, first in the world, that he could offer assistance to people who were addicted to opiates by getting them onto a medically supervised program. And since that invention in 1959, we're still doing basically the same thing. So we provide people with supplemental opiates. We don't just give them drugs. Comparing methadone maintenance to what is the next treatment. Let's say the next other option you would have, which would be an abstinence-based model where you get someone into a program where they spend the night and they get counseling and all that. That has been studied, and to many people it sounds like a better option. You're not giving people who have addiction drugs. Well, it might sound better, but when they've studied it, it has a 10 times, or 11 times actually, higher mortality rate.
After investigating it myself, I came to the conclusion that this is the right thing to do. People who are on street drugs have an alternative now, and basically it's an alternative lifestyle.
So they can get their family back, they can get their children back, they can get a job back, their job back, or keep their job, get their housing back. Like, it can make that kind of a big difference. Not necessarily in the next week, but usually within a year or two.
There's never been a superior treatment, despite many studies since the 60s. There's never been a better treatment for chronic refractory opiate addiction than opiate substitution would treat with counseling.
Over time, it becomes more and more just like a vitamin and less like a drug. It really doesn't have a very powerful effect. Like, it's noticeable in the sense of if you drink a coffee, you feel a little bit more awake.
The supports that I received while taking the methadone made all of the difference. Top-notch counseling, yoga, a drop-in, case management, that has to be considered an integral part of the treatment program.
Methadone allowed me to be able to not feel as though I was a slave to that.
It's really important to, when the person seeks treatment, when they come to my office, I'll just speak for myself, to really connect up with the person in terms of their sort of humanity and their dignity. And the patients that I see end up, I treat them on a humane level, and they treat me on a humane level, and they're not a drug addict anymore. They're a patient trying to get help.
I think stigma results when we're not able to allow ourselves to be open enough to identify with difference. We worry that something like that could happen to us. When I say like that, I mean somebody who's really down and out or different or struggling with addiction. We don't want to be like them. We other people. I think stigma is about othering.
It is a very heterogeneous group, and I have no doubt for sure that I could present 10 of my patients to somebody and say, guess what the illness is? And they would never guess that it was addiction.
It's what I call the invisible majority of methadone patients, and they are just everyday people that you wouldn't be able to tell any difference.
I think that people are generally surprised when they learn who in their communities and in their families and in their social circles are on methadone, just because of the level of stigma that's associated. And I think that just serves to show us that this is something that can touch anybody's life. I work with men and women from a variety of ages and different occupations. I've worked with people who are lawyers, who are construction workers, who are teachers, who are mothers and fathers.
Another misconception is that it's bad for you, or that it causes some kind of harm, when really, physically speaking, it has very little side effects, and it's a very safe medication.
So I think that the general public and sort of neighborhood groups need to understand that methadone won't bring crime to your neighborhood, that methadone is often seen as a crime for prevention measures. Usually people who are accessing methadone clinics are trying to make changes, and one of the big changes people want to make is to not feel that they have to resort to crime to stay well all the time. Since methadone isn't injected, it doesn't suddenly bring an influx of needles into a neighborhood.
I think what contributes to changing the opposition to people being not necessarily totally in favor of the clinic, but a much more positive approach to the clinic has to do totally with education, communication. Give them the information about methadone and methadone clinics, and people always rise to the occasion.
I mean, I hope for lots of change. I hope that we look at things more holistically, and also we look at the whole person, not just that part that is addicted to opiates.
I think a society is a better place when it does seek to enhance the lives of even, I guess, the least of its members, or the people that are not able to advocate for themselves. And then in doing so, I believe that eventually those people will be a great asset to that society, because there is no better teacher than experience.
Connection.
Respect.
Possibility.
Love. Life.
Relief.
Connection.
Collaboration.
Complicated.
Effective.